Hello, everyone. Nick Peters here, but Deeper Waters Apologetics for Gaming Theologian, and I affirm the virgin birth. I hope my sound is better today. I've heard from a couple of people, including one very special fan of mine out there. Thanks for watching, Mom. That I need to increase the volume, so I've brought a microphone from my computer, an external one. I've got it over here. And I hope I'm doing this correct, because I really do not understand a lot of things about technology. Okay, not going to deny that I had to have some help just getting this whole thing set up so I could do this kind of live stream. Anyway, this is Zelda II, The Adventure of Link, which we started on our last show. And it is, as I've said, the black sheep of the family. It gets a lot of negativity, which I really don't think is deserved. I think if you treat it as it was meant to be treated, you can walk away with an enjoyable game here. You have to kind of trick those things with the screen so they bounce where you want them to. And so I've never really had a problem with Zelda 2. Well, other than the challenge of beating it, of course. But as a game, no, I've never had a problem with it. I was quite surprised when I got on the internet and found that actually there was a lot of people that don't like Zelda 2. And I'm left wondering, why? I mean, granted, it's not your usual puzzle game, like many other games, and the style is very different. It really isn't Zelda in that regards, but hey, they were trying something different, and I applaud that. This time it just didn't work as well for the series. They changed that when we went back to Link to the Past. But hey, they tried something different with Breath of the Wild, and repeated again with Tears of the Kingdom, so who knows. And right now I've been going through Paper Mario lately on the Switch Online expansion, which I'm using to play this. And sometimes I wonder, geez, maybe they can have a Zelda game like this. But one thing I want to talk about was that Parappa Palace, or temple we could say, is out in the desert. And the Desert Fathers were an important part of early Christianity. These were people who went out to the desert to live a monastic lifestyle, to get away from the evils of the society around them. Probably the most famous one of all was Anthony the Great, which there was a biography written. I don't think it was called Anthony the Great, sorry about that, but just Saint Anthony. Sorry about that, my bad. But he had a biography written by Athanasius. And I think he actually lived to be 105, that's a remarkable feat even for today, was even more so back then. And these people went out in the desert, they practiced simplicity and humility and the life of the mind. You can still find monasteries like this. You can find them in America, even. There's one in Arizona, for instance. Now, something I'm going to do here is after I beat this guy, I'm not going to go straight to the boss. And I'll tell you why when I get there. But we're going to go back and we're going to gain some experience again. I just jump because I can, okay? So, these people, they often did a lot of writing on behalf of Christianity. in copying of text, in teaching of others on how to live Christianly. Mount Athos, I believe it is, and my apologies if I butchered that name, but that's very much a part of the Eastern community found in Eastern Orthodoxy. Now, some people, I'll admit I do have some criticisms at times of the whole thing because, it's kind of hard to do evangelism when you're out there being in seclusion. But these people did at least have a word going out about their communities out there. So people could come and see them, and they often took on disciples in that regard. They did the work also of copying the text, not just Christian text, I'd say, but even pagan text. And we often forget what a laborious process that was for them back then. Because these were done by hand, meticulously. I have to write papers for my PhD classes. They're normally about 20 pages. And I use computer keyboarding for that. And that's still tiresome to me. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you had to do that by hand? Especially if you said, okay, well, that was your rough draft. Now it's time for your next one. And then if you had to do a dissertation that way, that could be over 200 pages long or so. These people did that kind of thing. Oh, okay, time for a little brief Zelda thing. This guy is known as Horsehead. I think he's called Missouri. Rings. He's very simple to beat. Where he is when I don't do foolish things. Just strike his head. It's kind of like, geez, you'll never guess what his weak point is. Now, I said earlier that I was not going to go find me because I want to gain level, and here's why. See? When you beat him, 50 experience points. There you go, right there, magic goes up. But then, when you come here, place the crystal here. And you automatically get to go up to your next level, so boom, I got a free level out of it. And I try to do that every time. Now you see the temple has been turned to stone, so there's no going back there again. And since we have the candle now, everything's lit up. But the Desert Fathers, they put in the work. And they lived a life. They lived a life often of self-inflicted poverty. Believe it or not, being rich is not the most important thing in the world. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say being rich is evil as well. It's not. Well, doesn't the Bible say the love of money is the root of all evil? No. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Money is just a tool. It can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. Having money is not the problem. Money having you is the problem. Unfortunately, in our culture today, especially politically, we do tend to, like to go after the rich as villains, and they don't deserve it. But that's not the point about talk. The point is that these church fathers were willing to go without because they saw that they were gaining Christ in return. Now, that doesn't mean that that was required of everyone, and I think they would be some of the first to tell you that not everyone is meant to live this way. But if you wanted to have that life out in the desert, that was your choice. You could do that. Now I'm going to stop here before I go south so I can get my health refilled. And now we're off. And like I said, of copying text, we need to realize how hard that was. That these people would have a text before them, and they'd copy it, not line by line per se, but letter by letter, or word by word, almost. It's because they did things like this that we have Bibles today, even. Something odd just happened. Okay, for some reason, it looked like things stopped streaming for a while. I hope everything's worked out okay here. Okay, so I guess I'm going to keep this open here as well, just to make sure things go okay. If there's some delay, that's why, and I'll see if I can have someone come by and look at this setup, because like I've said, I'm not a technological guy. Now, I told you these bats were called aches, because they certainly are aches. But this one over here, you'll notice, is red. It's an ache man because, well, I think that kind of explains it. Took a little bit of damage because I wanted you all to see. Now here's what jump does. Now this area, the swamp, yeah, I don't want to get a hard challenge in that because these eagles called Mobies come at that point, and they don't cause a lot of damage, but whenever they hit you, they take 10 experience points from you, which I really don't want to deal with. Now, one thing we're going to notice up here is that there's a guy that lives in the woods up here that you need to go see if you're going to make it through the town of Saria. And I only know where his house is because I've played this game so much. Why he has this authority, who knows? And why does he give this note to a total stranger who comes see him? Who knows? It's one of those things in Zelda that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm sure someone out there has studied it some. Yeah, I don't really know a lot other than that about the Desert Fathers. Say if you want to know about them, I'd recommend actually visiting an Eastern Orthodox church. They probably have a lot more information about the Desert Fathers than I can give you. I'm much more a philosopher and New Testament historical type person. Anyway, let's keep going through Zelda, because there are other topics we can talk about here. Once again, bubbles are dangerous for some bizarre reason. I don't know, maybe Link hates having water in his eyes. Who knows? And here's just some extra experience. Well, that worked out wonderfully. Now, the next time we're going, I always prefer it when I get those. Next time we're going to go to is the town of Saria, right here. You see it comes in two different ways. Eyes of Ganon are everywhere. Geez, I wonder what that means. Well, let's see if I can show you. Yep. Not even towns are safe to go to. Now this lady lost her mirror. And unfortunately, that's the only clue she gives you. In earlier times I went through this game, I had no idea where anything was. If you go here, what she was doing that she put her mirror under the table, I have no idea. There are so many fascinating kind of fan fiction stories you could write about this game if you wanted to. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre to think you'll go in here and you'll find someone who will teach you a magic spell because you found a mirror. This guy must really treasure people who make his daughter happy or something. But life is one of the most important spells you'll get in the game because it restores 3 boxes or hearts here to you. So we're still going through. Yes, even literal women can be bats. Now, if there's a character that's meant to be there, that's not random, they will never become a bat. Now, I used to have such a hard time wondering, how on earth do I get past this? Well, since I met Bagoo, and there we go. We cross the bridge. Now this gets us into the area of the game that has a reputation of being one of the hardest, Death Mountain. And nowadays, I don't see it. It might have been different when I was younger, but today, it's not the same. Could be a little bit different because I'm kind of thinking about what I'm going to say to you guys watching while I'm doing this, but there are ways you can make this easier. And yes, Death Mountain was also the name of Ganon's dungeon in the Legend of Zelda series. Death Mountain is kind of a fixture in the games nowadays. Every game practically, except for ones like, say, Link's Awakening, set in a different place, have a Death Mountain in them. You want to try and go down here very carefully. This one don't need to do that as much. The thing is that going through this though does remind me that, and this is just free magic there, Shield Tech reduces damage by half, which can be really helpful for these guys. Those are alligators wielding axes, as strange as it sounds. Now, if you do think you need life in here, here's what I do. I think I'm focusing so much on showing you all how to play this game that I'm not playing it the best that I normally would. But here's what I do. Get that extra life that you want back. See, those enemies will always refill themselves. And every 6 enemy gives you either a magic jar or they give you experience bags. One of the two. So you can just keep going back, farming these guys, and getting stuff. But what I was saying is that gamers automatically like a challenge. And something you'll also notice in this area is that when gamers don't think they're getting enough challenge, they even create artificial challenges for themselves. So you look at people who play Pokemon, for instance, and they will take what's known as the Nuzlocke challenge, where if your Pokemon faints, well, that's it, they're dead. And you have to do that. That ups the challenge. It's nothing the game requires of you at all, but they do it anyway. One of the weirdest challenges I've seen done is the original Ninja Gaiden, one of the hardest games ever made. And it's got what's known as the Pacifist Challenge, whereby you do not kill any enemies in the game, except for bosses. That's kind of unavoidable. But everything else, you let live. And there are people that can do this. It just blows my mind to think about it. Why do we do this? Why do we make hard things even harder for ourselves? I'm not going to bother doing this. I've shown you all the principle. This one can be a little bit easier to deal with because somehow the ledge makes it easier. All these enemies always move with a pattern. So you just figure out the pattern, and it makes it a lot easier to have to deal with them. I think there's a Goria over here. There. Gamers like a challenge because we don't want things to be easy for us. And believe it or not, gamers, we're not terrified of failure. We are people who have faced failure all day long and keep going no matter what. We are people who learn from the mistakes that we make, which is a great principle to bring into the rest of our lives. Yeah, these are annoying enemies who also take off 10 experience points if they dare hit you. But again, this is also a great place to farm if you want to. Whereas the enemies keep coming, and they're relatively easy to beat. I'm so out of practice with this game. Now, if I noticed also the next level I'm going to gain, I'm going to be getting my magic up. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of getting some health up. Now here, you're going to encounter red Darias who do something different. They throw axes. Once again, these games are always about pattern recognition. Now what I want to do also is get up there and get that magic jar, but I don't have enough to cast jump right now. So, let these guys give me enough. In the red magic jar reveals all of your magic. Well, that's not what I wanted, but I'm not going to complain. 50 experience points is always good. And I'll make sure to heal myself and do the best I can whenever I know I'm going to gain a lever. Let me put my phone on silent here. I'm sorry I forgot that. Because once I hit 1200 experience points and gain that lever, my magic will automatically refill all the way up to the max. There you go. You're say, well, geez, you still can't get up there. Nah, you just need a little bit of extra momentum. And there we go. Anyway, game was like a challenge. And failure is not the end for us. If anything, it's just something we learn from. Now, when was the last time you fought a really difficult boss in a game that you just did not think you could figure out what to do on, but you kept trying? Well, I need to mention games like Hollow Knight and Silksong. Well, there you go. If they don't give you 200 experience points, they give you the red magic jar. Why do you keep doing those games? Because you do like the challenge. You do want to face something. And one of the greatest moments is when you finally get that last hit on that boss and you can say, I did that. And you did. Anyway, bits don't jump, so that makes them a bit different. Pun not intended. And one more hit should finish him off. There we go. Gamers live for that moment in many ways where we do succeed. We do overcome. And that's something we need to bring into our own lives as well. Failure is not the end. Failure doesn't need to be final. It's only final if we give up on it. It's only final if you surrender and say, that's it, I can't win. You determine if a failure is final. And if you don't think it's final, then you just keep going over and over again. That's what we do. I mean, first few times I went through this game, it was extremely difficult. I don't know how I would have ever made it. But I kept trying. And keep in mind, for me, this was when I was 8, 9 years old or so. And I didn't realize it, but I was learning a great lesson. A lesson about failure. And so many times I saw that screen pop up about the return of Ganon. But I kept going. Which, by the way, if the laughter in that screen sounds familiar, it might be because you played Punch-Out. Because that's also the same laughter from Soda Popinski in the game. Okay, as this one is going up, yeah, I have to do it at just the right time, so I don't have a full magic meter, but I've got enough. Now we're going to kind of into the inner sanctum of Death Mountain here. This is actually the harder part of the game, or this lever, but here, got that again. And there again are Aikmans. Hence why I said Aikmen. There's 2 of them there. Well, you've probably noticed that the sword beam does not work on every enemy in the area. I did not handle that the best way, but I made it. And when you're going through this part of the game, at this point, you don't even really know why you're in this area. The game just leaves it to you to explore and find out. But to get back again, what I was saying is that I don't want you to treat failure as if it's fine or evil. Now, those spike creatures, no way of killing them right now, unless they're on the ledge above you and you can use a sword beam. Other than that, can't beat them right now. That's just the way it is. We'll get a technique that will help us to beat them later on. Not too much later on. We'll get it though. Now, if they're out here the right way, I'll show you. You can kill them with a sword beam here. Yeah, just like that. But if they're on the lower level, your sword beam. So, people are just, look, whatever failure you're going through, or think you're going through in your life, it's not the end of the world. Things will work out. Okay? It doesn't mean what happened to you is good. It doesn't mean that it's a pleasant experience. People don't really enjoy failure. You don't enjoy seeing that game over screen when that boss keeps beating you. Shield first. That leaves me with 64 points. So I'm going to time my thing right because there's a red area up here, and I'm going to assume he's going to drop for me experience points. And that worked out just fine. And this is the hammer. And what does it do? Well, you'll see when we get back to the overworld. But people's failure doesn't have to be final. It doesn't. The first time I tried to get a master's degree, I failed. And the teacher was not very kind to me, either, and told me that I might have just reached my pinnacle and I'm just not capable of academic writing. Yep, honestly said that to me. And that stung. But I didn't give up. I just decided to go somewhere else and keep trying. And now, you know what? I won't deny, I hate academic writing. But I can do it to an extent. The main thing I hate about academic writing, honestly, is that it's so formal. Thankfully, I've got some professors here who encourage writing in first person, even for academic. Now I'm using life again, and there you go. Now, excuse me just a little bit, I've got a timer that's about to go off here, so I'm going to wait until that goes off, and then we'll get back. But I hope I also showed you what the hammer does in the overworld. That's the only way you can break those kinds of rocks that block the paths that you're taking. Yeah, just when I have a timer goes off every night at 9:30 that reminds me to take medication that I have. Oh, seconds are always the hardest to wait for. So, that's one my professors used to say. Says, talk awkwardly amongst yourselves there. Yeah, okay. Now, it's actually thought that this little area right here that you're exploring, with the graveyard, the forest, everything, that this is the actual area that you were in the original Legend of Zelda. In other words, you didn't go up to anywhere above, or to the east, which would explain why you didn't see any towns in the game. Could that be? Maybe. I'm entirely open to it. This is one of those areas that the real danger is knockbacks. Oh wait, you should notice that it's costing me less now to cast spells because I gained another level. Okay, over that part. So, to get back again, whatever failure you're facing right now, by all means, mourn it, grieve it, but don't treat it as a death sentence. What matters so much is not that you face failure in your life, because we're all going to fail at some things. No one is perfect at everything. What matters is how you respond to it, what you do about that failure. That determines everything. If you just lie down in defeat and refuse to act again, well, that's your choice. These guys are super annoying because they take off 20 experience points if they hit you. Yeah, I'm getting out of here as soon as I can. And I've had to apply this in my own life, like I said, about academic writing. Today, it's still a struggle, because personally, I don't think my overall writing style is going to change. I think it's reached a point where it's firmly set, and I'm just going to tweak it with minor adaptations to it. But I still do what my professors tell me to do. That's the only way to succeed. And the way I see it, is do a little bit of academic writing up as now, handle it for now. And when I get done, I can do all the popular writing that I want, because that's the writing I'm most interested in doing. I want to write things that will reach the average populace. Now, this town is Meadow, which technically he wasn't a sage in Ocarina of Time, but he was Saria's friend and your opponent or rather an antagonist of yours in Kokiri Village. Anyway, there actually is a church here. If you go front and see what it says, but there's another reason for it. Apparently in the church dwells this time not a wizard, but a knight. And the benefit of something like this is it doesn't cost you anything. And we'll find for some enemies later on, this is extremely helpful. There are very few enemies I use the counter upward stab on. But downward, oh yeah, I use it on a lot of them. Now, this is Our Lady in Need. That's the only thing she tells you. Her daughter is sick, help her. Okay, so we're going to find out how to help this girl out. Now, the benefit with those blue Glorias is they're not that hard to kill, and they can drop red magic jars or 200 experience bags. Again, that's what you can do with the hammer. Again, a freebie, just in case I take damage. Do that. Now see, you can kill those things now when you have a downward thrust. As well as everything else like that. There are some enemies, downward thrust won't always work on them. For instance, if you face an Iron Knucker and he's got his shield up, it's not going to work. And there's my life up right there. Again, just one to stress that you can always try things again in many cases. Right now, I'm helping a good friend of mine who's getting ready to take the PhD entrance exam, and he didn't pass the first time, and he knows what he did, but he didn't pass, so I'm trying to encourage him. And personally, I'm proud of him for trying it again. I wish more people did that. And I also realize this is something I have to tell myself, because failure is still difficult to deal with at times. But if you treat it more like a game than anything else, it actually does become more manageable. It becomes about rising up to the challenge and facing it head on. And this is the kind of thing that I struggled with even for this very game. It used to be, how the heck can anyone beat a game like Zelda II? Yet now, here I am going through it. Am I doing perfect? No. Am I making mistakes? Yes. Just by the way, you want to know? You don't have to go through Death Mountain anymore now. Just come back here again, so the only time you have to go through Death Mountain is once. Got my health back up, so we're off again, and we're going to see what we can do to help that lady whose daughter is sick. Yeah, the rocks come back, but that's okay. It beats going through Death Mountain again. I'm trying to avoid the swamps because I don't want to face the hard battles, but now I'm remembering the weak ones aren't that bad. Just some opt rocks. And I tend to jump a lot here because it's a lot faster than walking. So, try to see things as a challenge to be overcome instead. And if you need help with those challenges, that's fine too. No one says you have to do everything alone. And this includes if you're in a situation where you need to have, say, a support group out there. That's okay. The thing is that you just learn to overcome it. Because as nice as it is to beat a boss in a game or figure out a puzzle or something of that sort, it's even nicer to have those personal victories in your own life. Now this bridge you again. Just in case. Since I've got a freebie there. And some of you might be watching something like this, for instance, and think, how does he play this game like that, where he just seems to be doing just fine? It took practice. But because of practice, I learned to do it. I know I'm more prone to taking damage by doing it that way, but I like to sometimes. And this is the health medicine, which looks very much like it did in the original Legend of Zelda. And with that, we are going to go back to Mido. And you know, there are people that play games in a way that I'll never be able to do that. I'm sure of it. And that's fine. You have your strengths, I have mine. And that's important to acknowledge. You don't have to be able to do everything everyone does around you either. It's okay if you're different. If you're the outsider in that, and if you're never a game master or anything like that, that's fine too. What matters is that you're doing something you enjoy, and that does in some way benefit you, and it's an activity that there's nothing wrong with. Now I think we're going to be able to get just a little bit into the... Or I might pause just before going into the Swamp Palace and save that for another time. I probably will. Then we're going to go back to Mido and show you what happens when you return this. And So you might be thinking, well, geez, can you stop? Are you going to lose your experience? That's why God invented save states. And once you all know that I'm not playing this game when you all aren't looking, so everything I go through entirely as is. And some astute players, watchers, might be thinking, Nick, you missed an extra life in a couple places. Yep, and I'll tell you why later on. Much later on. So let's go back to the town here. I am going to try and gain that level though anyway before I end for the night. I'm going to say the town music is just so pleasant in this game. It does give you the impression of being in a nice little town like that. I don't know why it says it like that, because really, fairy does not give you a lot of power. What does it do? This. It turns you into a fairy. It gives you a power of flight, but until you leave the screen, you cannot do anything else. So having done that, I'm going to go and talk to her to get my magic up. I'm going to go back now and head towards the Swamp Temple. Now once I gain my lever and get to the temple, we're going to pause for the night. And next time we'll show you how you beat the Swamp Temple. And by the way, people, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And I do this for you all out there because I've got several of my own games I could be going through now, but now I want you all to have this experience, to have a time where we meet together, play games, and discuss Christianity. And if you can, support my Patreon. Even just a little bit in Patreon can make a big difference to me. It might not mean much to you, it might not be much from you, but heck, if you sign up and say, I'm going to donate $5 a month to him, that's huge to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. Please share this. We're almost up to 100 subscribers. Hope to get that, and the next go after that is to get 1,000 subscribers. But help me reach one of my goals here. And there is the lever. I'm going to go this way so I can finish off the other Octrox over here. Whew. Now, I stopped intentionally there for a reason. See, there are some places on the overworld map where there's supposed to be a forced interaction of sorts. Okay, that wasn't what I had hoped it would be. I thought there was some experience around, but if you hit an enemy at the same time, you won't go to that area. We are almost to the Swamp Palace, and when we get there, Pausing for a night. Don't really need that. We're going to show you all one thing here. There. Sometimes an owl and knuckle will come out, but not this time. So, next time, we are going to face the Swamp Palace. See what secrets it has to give. Alright. Thanks for taking some time out of your day or your evening, whatever it is, for you to watch this. I'm Nick Peters, Deeper Waters Apologetics, the gaming theologian, and I affirm